Um, and so we are excited at AI and College Admissions, a NACAC Special Interest Group, to welcome you to our panel, from Selection to Success, Chatbots and Agents in Admissions. I am Jasmine Solomon. I'm at NYU in undergraduate admissions, and I'm one of the AI and College Admissions um, advisory board members. And I am happy today to have Mickey Baines here from Kennedy and Company as our moderator. Before he kicks us off, I just want to share a few housekeeping things. As the audience members, you do have access to the Q&A, and please do use it throughout to ask your questions. We have some off-camera panelists supporting us from our different panelists, universities, who will be answering questions throughout, as well as we'll have a Q&A at the end where we will address the questions submitted there. And also at the end of this webinar, when we conclude, you will be redirected to a survey. And we would greatly appreciate if you can complete that as we are planning out our 2025 AI and College Admissions events for the group, and it will help us with our planning. And take it away, Mickey.
Thank you, Jasmine. Well, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, wherever you are. Hopefully you're having a great day so far. We're excited to join you today and share some insights. When Jasmine and I began chatting a bit about this webinar, one of the things we knew we wanted to do is have a panel of folks who are using AI in different ways. I've heard from others, as in my conversations, about a need to better understand not just that AI is going to change things, but to give a little more specificity to that, to help to understand exactly how and where it might start as we get into that. So I'm glad that we have three awesome panelists with us that have been working with AI for a bit in some slightly different ways and with different lens that they're viewing how they use it. So I will introduce them. Actually, I'll introduce them and let them introduce themselves beyond that. Let's put it that way. So we have three panelists with us. Our first, Annie Nelson, who is Associate Director of Admission at NYU. Annie, do you want to say hi? And as you introduce yourself, maybe share a little bit about what tool you're using and how it's being used on your campus, maybe and how long it's been used.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mickey. So I've been working in admissions for 11 years now, working with AI for the past 2 years, which has been an exciting part of my portfolio. We use a AI-generated chatbot through a vendor called Ivy AI that lives on our admissions website. And that is one of the channels that we use to communicate with prospective students and families and counselors to try and help us mitigate some of the volume that we're getting at NYU. We're a very large private university, so that's been really helpful for us. And also connecting with a new generation of students who are used to now interacting with AI.
Wonderful. Next, Claire Skelton. Claire is the Assistant Director of Content Marketing at Southeast Missouri State University. Claire, why don't you say hi and tell us a little about what tools you're using?
Hi, like Mickey said, my name is Claire Skelton. We use our chatbots through our CRM, which is Element 451. We found great success through using it with our CRM just to see the whole student journey, and I'm excited to share more about it. We launched this, I guess it was August 2023, and then added Teams onto it summer 2024.
When you say Teams, do you mean Microsoft Teams?
No, we have select teams in our bot that are for student type. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Just wanted to clarify there. Yep. Thank you very much. Next, we have Nathan Ament. Nathan is the Vice President of Enrollment at Knox College. Nathan, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi. Glad to be here.
And what tools are you using at Knox?
Yeah, we're using the CollegeVine tools right now. So we're using their chatbot, their AI recruiter within their connections platform. And then we are just in the process of launching their AI recruiter off platform. We've lovingly called it KC, stands for Knox College, and using it for the top of the funnel prospects.
And I've tested that bot, and I know in that demo environment they reference Knox College, so so I feel quite familiar, even though we've not worked together before, Nathan. I feel quite familiar with their institution because I've asked that bot many questions. So everyone, I'll introduce myself as well. I'm Mickey Baines. I'm a partner and president at Canadian Company, as Jasmine said earlier. I am on the dark side, so I consult in higher ed space. I've been working in higher ed or consulting in higher ed for 27 years. Almost 13 of those in higher ed. The last 14 have been as a consultant in the space, and I do a lot of work with technology in our work. This webinar, we're meant to talk about how we're using AI. We're not here to promote any specific product in any way, even though we're levered or sharing a little bit about the products that each of our panelists are using. We're just giving you those names to give you some context into how they might be used, but not in any way trying to endorse. There are no paid sponsorships here, so you don't have to worry about anyone trying to sell or pitch anything. So to get started, I thought I would just start with hopefully an easy question. So how did you open the door to AI on your campus or for your team? What was the impetus that said we need this, and how did those discussions go if you were involved? Annie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So in the admissions office, we have actually seen a great increase in applications since specifically 2020. And that means an increase in inquiries that our office was fielding. So it went up 41% from 2022 to 2023, and that just wasn't sustainable for our team. So we were trying to think of creative solutions to make sure that, those basic questions that were coming in about the admissions process could be answered quickly from a chatbot. And then those more nuanced questions that require the expertise of our team could then be answered by us, giving us a little bit more of a higher touch point with students so we could deliver better customer service. So we were looking into AI generation just because we wanted to release some of the pressure from our team and also lean into, as I mentioned earlier, what students are used to interacting with right now. They are looking for those very quick, immediate responses to their questions, and they are interacting with our website when they're trying to find more information. So that's why we wanted it to live there. We are very lucky that we have leadership that's very interested in leveraging AI because AI is here to stay, right? We have to do so responsibly, but that is something that we were interested in exploring. So that was kind of the impetus for it, was volume and making sure that our team could do effective and efficient work, and at the end of the day, best serve the students that we're working with in the admissions process.
Claire, how about you? I know you're using Element. So Element, you're using that as your CRM and your AI tool. So in that platform, you're able to leverage both. What was kind of your key reasons as you selected Element? Was it for the AI uses, and were there specific uses you had in mind?
Yes, so it kind of was the perfect storm last summer. We were a little short-staffed with admissions, and Element had just rolled out their chatbot. We started with Sadie. She was our sole chatbot that would go for all of our admissions page. We did keep her just for new first-time students, and then now expanding out to other demographics of our graduates online, and this helps her kind of understand the different student types that will be, and if any student would ask for an apply, there would be different answers for each different student type. And so that's why we found this to be a huge use case. But yeah, we've had great support from Element, being able to being one of the first people to adapt, or the first colleges to adapt this. But it's been a huge effort between admissions and then myself, and I'm in marketing.
Okay. And Nathan?
Yeah, I knew the folks at College Vine pretty well. We'd worked together at a previous institution. I started here just over a year ago in the summer of 2023. So we were we'd signed a contract for their direct admissions tool. We'd signed a contract for their connections platform. And then I was actually presenting with one of the founders, the co-founders, at a conference in February. And he said, "Hey, you got to look at this. This is what we're kind of working on right now as the next thing with AI." And then it was really rapidly getting through a beta testing at that point. We presented at a couple of the local ACACs. And I could just see that there was just this rapid acceleration on the functionality of it. And again, given my relationship with a couple folks in that organization, I was willing to try it and to figure out what we needed to do. And I really saw it for us as an opportunity to get into a part of the funnel that we weren't doing anything other than mass emails with EAB. We weren't really doing anything at the top of the funnel. So to be able to do other things was really intriguing for me and my president.
Yep. And you're using it obviously for both, are you saying as a bot and for the phone agent or just a component?
Yep. The bot is in the
Both?
connections platform. Yep. Within all the connections that we've made within the College Vine platform. That's how it was first introduced, I guess, which was fascinating to us. We've been joking around that the responses and that the students have been providing within the bot interactions are longer than their essays they've been submitting on their Common App. So we know they can write. And so that was awesome. And then as we were implementing the phone component of it, that's really what we're trying to do is the email then matched with the phone. And that's why we're in the process of launching that and getting that stood up right now.
And so let me just ask Annie and Claire, tell me a little bit about the process for standing your products up. What did it look like? How long did it take? How much time from your team? If you were involved in that process, how much time from your team did it take to get those products set up? So Annie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so anyone in the space who has not launched a chatbot or is still at the beginning stages, anticipate that it can be a very lengthy process. So we started our research in spring 2023, looking at different vendors, understanding what was out there in the marketplace. We submitted a proposal to leadership in summer 2023, and we actually launched our chatbots in spring 2024. So it did take a full year for implementation. But we were able to then be very intentional about it, which I think is important, especially with the use of AI. We researched, I think, about 6 different vendors, met with 4 of them for demos. And then once we had our finalists, we were looking at their case studies, talking to folks who were using the clients. And we were really interested in, obviously, chatbots that would have an AI functionality because not all of them do. We were also interested in vendors who specifically work with higher education. We wanted folks who understood our needs as a university, were familiar with the process. So we ultimately chose Ivy AI because they do work with higher education clients. They do have a lot of folks on their team who previously worked at colleges and universities, and they are intimately familiar with our CRM, which is Slate. We really wanted to have that integration so that we could better understand applicant needs, attach things directly to their record, and allow them quick and easy access to their application. Right now, we're kind of in the monitoring phase, so making sure our bot is working properly, understanding the types of inquiries that are coming in that maybe we didn't anticipate. So that way we can build some custom responses for students, but also maybe improve our website, kind of knowing where those gaps are. So that way we can improve our process all around. But it was a process that took over a year. Another thing to consider is accessibility. So we worked very closely with our accessibility team at NYU to make sure that students were able to access it properly. And we were meeting all of those needs.
Yep.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Annie. We did start in summer 2023 with just Sadie, and through that year, we kind of realized that we needed to expand because Sadie was hallucinating or maybe giving the wrong answer because she didn't realize what she was really, what student type she was trying to hope or to answer for. And that's kind of why we went into having the different teams for our chatbots. I think one of the hardest things is refining that knowledge base. Like you had mentioned, checking our website, making sure that we have good content and not too many links, but really just refining the knowledge base is something that it's not we have the chatbots done, they're good to go, everything's in the clear. I think it's always going to be a process. Thankfully, we do have some great student workers who are kind of our front desk in our admissions department, and they do field Sadie constantly and are checking her and able to send over any kind of missteps that she might make. And we were a little discouraged when sometimes she might make a couple of wrong answers, but we found that we are picking up those fumbles and we're still making those great interactions with those students. I do feel like we are a little more forgiving to chatbots. I know I am whenever I'm on different pages. So I think that we're not losing that when she is a little confused on the answer, but it's a constant process with the knowledge base.
Yep. Quick question for you, Nathan, and Annie, you answered it already, and Claire, I know your answer as well because you're because of the bot you're using. But Nathan, is your bot with CollegeVine, is it integrated with your CRM?
Yes and no. We're just doing the integration right now where any of the interactions that they're having are coming back. We're like right in the middle of that. I wouldn't say that we're accurately putting things right on the timeline, but that's in the plan, basically before the new year, I would say.
Okay. And I reference this, but to clarify for everyone listening, so Claire, your bot is, since it's through Element 451, that's part of the CRM, so it's would therefore be connected. And you mentioned in your answer earlier that you have connected Ivy and integrated that with Slate to bring those interactions in. And I bring that up for folks, and I think that's a key consideration as you look at your use of bots. I'll take my moderator hat off, and I'm going to put on my consultant hat and just say that, with any client or prospective client I'm talking to, as you can look at those bots, the value you lose by not having that in your CRM is great. And when you look at where you will potentially go with AI, and I'll be asking panelists, you'll get that question shortly, so prepare yourself. When you look at where you may go with AI, without that data, you won't be able to progress as far as you want. And so if you have a third point or a point solution, a third party or a point solution for that bot, and it is not connected, you will lose a lot of that data that will help you better leverage other use cases of AI further down the road. So can you tell us a little bit, and Nathan, we'll start with you on this one. To what extent, are you using your bot, or how is it impacting your analytics? What types of reports or analysis are you doing with that engagement with your bot, and has it shaped any other strategies and tactics that you're looking to deploy for the future?
Too new, Mickey, I would say. We have a great dashboard, like CollegeVine provides us all kinds of analytics on the background, which is awesome. I don't think that's really informing any type of strategy that I'm doing right now. I can tell you, when we were trying to figure out how to launch it and what to do, especially when you're talking off platform, I did talk with my consultant, my search consultant at EAB, and said, listen, is this going to kind of get in the way? Like, is it going to have an impact on these EAB emails that we're sending out? Will it look different? Will it not? And kind of what we wrapped around was, it's anything helps at this point, right? Anything that we can get to, it helps. We did choose strategically which prospects to upload to it, to have it start doing email conversations, AI generated email conversations, and then turns into phone conversations. And we picked prospects from our strategic markets to make sure that we double down on that. But right now we're just running to make sure that it works. To Claire's point earlier, we're kind of forgiving with some of this. And there are some wrong answers. I do like the word hallucination. That was pretty good. I might have to steal that. But this is, one of those things that, how many times is it, no offense to all my admissions counselor friends, how many times did admissions counselor given the wrong answer at a college fair, right? So that's what we keep coming back to give the perspective of like,
yes,
hey, like, you know, you're getting some of these reports, you're getting some of these things where maybe the answers are incorrect, especially during the training process. But they are so close, and we're really kind of nitpicking at that point. If we're going to
Yeah.
apply those same type of parameters to an admissions counselor just standing at a college fair or going to a high school, it wouldn't even be the same ballgame.
And I think that's an excellent point. One I've not leveraged, and I'm going to steal that one. So I think it's a good point. You know, to what extent are we holding a standard for this chatbot that we may not hold to ourselves or to our colleagues? And I think that's excellent. One of the questions I know I'm trying to monitor the Q&A a bit as well. And one of the questions that came up, and Claire, I'll send this one to you. How are you addressing the errors as you talk about hallucinations or incorrect answers? How does that process work with your bot to help it learn that this was a wrong answer and what the right answer is?
So we do have a Sadie watch chat that has everybody who has their hand in her knowledge base. Thankfully, we are connected with OpenAI to kind of know whenever there's going to be an influx and maybe a slowdown. We have found that that's whenever Sadie or our teams kind of get their answers a little more funky, is whenever OpenAI is running a little bit slower.
Okay.
But again, we're able, since it's through our CRM, we're able to see this student's journey, right? What the page that they were on, and we are able to reevaluate our website and maybe make it a little bit more clear for our student, but also our chatbot. And then we're able to recover that conversation immediately and answer them with the right question. And this now opens up a greater conversation with that student we already are seeing them, we're already hitting them at a point where they're ready to talk. So you might as well keep the conversation then going.
Annie, how about you? Do you have a process in place for monitoring those answers?
We do. So my team will go in on a weekly or daily basis, just depending on the time of year, and look at user generated ratings. So they can rate it on a star scale or thumbs up, thumbs down. But then our bot, excuse me, can also identify when it doesn't feel confident in its response. So we'll say it has low confidence in a response or no confidence. So we're specifically looking at those chats to understand, where is the bot tripping up, or why is the user not satisfied with the answer. Sometimes users are not satisfied with the answer because it's not what they want to hear. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But with the low and no confidence identified by the bot, that's really our moment of intervention to continue to train it. We've seen a lot of interaction with the bots that we have to kind of filter it down. We launched our first year bot in March 2024. And since then, we've had 26,000 conversations with the bot. So impossible for us to look at all of those interactions. Similar to what Claire was talking about earlier, we have so many different applicant types. So we actually had to build 3 different bot brains. So we do have teams that look at each brain to understand what types of questions are coming in, and then also how we have to mitigate any concerns that we have.
Awesome. 26,000 is quite a few. Yeah. Nathan, how about you? How is your team addressing? Did you have to like build a process, assign new responsibilities, update job descriptions? What is the process for building out a way to ensure that you're searching for, identifying, and addressing those corrections when needed?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet, right? And we're a small shop. I mean, Annie, when you mentioned 20,000, that just is like blowing my mind. I'm speechless, and that you have to create 3 different brains. Like, I mean, we've had over 7,000 conversations with the chatbot, but in the connections platform, but it just amazes me. And so we did define roles basically within the CollegeVine tools, right? So we have somebody that does direct admissions campaigns, we have somebody that does the connections campaigns, and then we have somebody that oversees the AI, and that's Kimberly Zimmerman, who's the second panelist here that's answering these questions in the Q&A for us. And we had to define those roles so we could make sure that everybody was monitoring it. I think the biggest lift, at least the front end for us, was just monitoring the training aspect of it, because we did have to do quite a bit of training on the phone with Casey, with our staff. Like, they held multiple training conversations throughout the month of July to make sure that they were up to speed. And then Kim had to go back in and make sure that these are all okay and what was correct, what was not. But really it was just misinformation that was on our website. So then it also prompted us to then go and like see what was wrong on the website and find that and fix it, because it wasn't that the AI was actually giving wrong information. It was, we just had wrong public facing information that we were able to find because of the AI.
You know, that nothing calls out a mistake on a website like an incorrect answer on a chatbot. I mean, that's a new way to find those, and that's not necessarily something that was always wrong. It could just be that something has changed and the content on the website hasn't been updated to reflect that change. It could be admission dates, you know, those types of things. So I'll just throw out, you know, you mentioned, you know, how do we respond when something is incorrect? You know, one of the things that we've done with a client that will help you that could potentially help you find and correct some information. And this is something I would say, this is another reason why you would have it connected to your CRM if it's a different solution. You know, once that conversation's complete, creating an automated task that might then trigger an email to that student or prospective student the following morning from the department that is most closely related. So if it's admissions, could be financial aid, that says, hey, we saw you having a conversation with KC yesterday. Did you get the answers you were looking for? That's it. Doesn't have to be anything else. But then gives the student an opportunity to say, okay, now there's a human reaching out and I can reply if I have a question. You know, those types of things can help, and also cross that channel over to an email, gives direct access to a human, even if that email was automated. But things like that might also help ensure that there's another channel for your prospects there to connect with someone if they're confused with an answer or unsure of it. Okay, so are
Mickey,
there
can
any...
I jump in here real quick and
please.
just follow up on that?
Yeah.
The only thing I would caution, so with the College Vine tool, it actually asks the student whether they want to be connected with a human.
There you go. Perfect.
Right. So it actually goes through this journey, and that says, if you want more information, or did you not find the answer you wanted? And if the student says no, I would caution them to have that automation. Like, somehow
absolutely.
or another, we need to figure that out, because one of the things we're seeing with the feedback, at least for the phone calls, is that the students love talking to the AI because it takes the anxiety out of the process. It takes the judgment out of the process. Even though we all have wonderful admissions staff and they're all super nice people, somehow or another, these high school students still think that they're going to, you know, say something wrong and that they're going to be judged for their answers. And that's why they're more willing to talk to an AI robot, chatbot, whatever it is, right?
And I would agree with that. If the bot's already asking that particular question, I wouldn't insert that if you're not there. The other thing I would say is, you know, as you're working, we're talking here a little more specifically about traditional age students with non-traditional students who may prefer the human over that. Then having that in there is even more important, whether that's something through the bot that you can do or just as a follow-up automation. Putting that in there might give those particular students another chance, that those that may more likely want to have that special interaction. So are there specific skill sets you need to have in order to manage your bots? Well, let's start with you. Did you find that there were particular skill sets you needed to learn to help you manage, you know, as you're implementing and going live and maintaining?
Yeah, I think I was anticipating that I would need a little bit more of a tech background to work with AI and a chatbot specifically, but that was not the case, just because the vendors really have the process set up for you. It's just kind of like feeding in the information. So for the most part, it was us deciding like what we wanted our parameters to be, where we wanted the bot to get the information, where we felt like we needed to intervene to provide more specific information from our team. There is some very basic coding involved when you're creating custom responses, which are essentially like canned responses in your bot, just to make sure aesthetically they look correct, they're pulling from the right information. But otherwise, it really required a very little lift from our team. It was just training it, making sure it had the right information. But I was quite surprised by that.
Claire, how about you?
I completely agree with you, Annie. I think it's just trying to decide what avenue we want to go with this and keep on refining it. I think this is, the very beginning of chatbots, so it's only going to get better and better. And just to be forgiving with it and being forgiving with ourselves, we're only trying to make this better resource for our students.
Yep. And I know there was a question in there about vendor support, and it looks like that may have been answered. But Nathan, from your side, you're working with the team at College Vine. What type of support are you finding from your vendor? What were your expectations maybe also for support? When you're looking at this, you're a small shop. You don't have two technical staff to put on this to manage all of this effort. So how's that support going for you?
I mean, it's gone wonderfully. We were a beta tester, so I would expect a little bit more support because they're
Sure.
wanting to make sure that it works correctly for us. I'm not trying to be around the bush on that, but I think, they had regular meetings with us. We had check-ins, we had the next steps. And that was really critical. I have worked in the vendor space a little bit on the CRM side, and I would say that compared to implementing a CRM or something along those lines, like it's nothing compared to that at all. So, but I think, like I say, with all vendor relationships, it's only as good as what you put into it. You can't expect the vendor to come to you and do it for you. Like, you really have to make sure that you have somebody that's at least writing point on it, even if they're writing point on a bunch of other vendor relationships. But you have to make sure that you're following through, because the calendar just gets away from you no matter what you're doing.
Yep. Do you have plans on, I know you're talking about implementing the phone agent, and you're working on that, but beyond that, what do you see next on the horizon maybe for you to think about from an AI perspective?
Well, one of the things we're actually testing with College Vine right now, and I'm afraid to even say it out loud, and especially something that's being recorded because my staff doesn't really know about it, the counselors don't, but we're testing transcript reading. So completely on the opposite side, right? One of the things I love about the recruiter is it was all external facing. I felt that was something that nobody else was really doing from the phone perspective. But then, right now the AI is reading the transcripts, recalculating GPAs, counting courses. That's a heavy lift for us on the reading side. Like I said, small school, we get about 6,000 applications a year. Probably about 15 to 2,000 of those are international applications with just gnarly transcripts. We also pull from the state of Florida, which are even gnarlier transcripts to review. And so, Zach came to us and said, "Hey, is this something that you'd be willing to take a run at?" And so we're kind of doing an A/B testing right now to figure out how that can work to maybe cut down on the load of the application or of the admissions counselor to read those applications, spend more time yielding those students.
Perfect. And that's, that is definitely something that's very near to the horizon for mass use, is that transcript reading and ingestion process. Annie, how about you? What is next on the horizon for you all? Have you considered other types of use cases, expanding a bit, maybe how you're using Ivy or looking at other use cases in general?
Yeah, I think for our team right now, the focus is leaning more into the AI in the chatbot, because we found early on when we were correcting those responses that were not ideal, we were building a lot of those custom canned responses. So I think we were actually stifling how the bot could learn and the information it was gathering. And so we just finished a really big project where we cut down our custom responses from over 1,200 to just under 200. So that way the bot can lean further into those generative responses. So that's kind of where we are right now, is trusting the AI a little bit more, being forgiving with AI, being forgiving with ourselves as well, as Claire mentioned earlier. And I think we're hoping that we can expand bots out to other parts of the university. So within enrollment management, there have been conversations about financial aid coming on board, the registrar coming on board with a bot. So that way we can better serve students and be a little bit more aligned across enrollment management. So I think that's where the conversations are right now.
Yeah. Claire, how about you?
Nothing specific right now. I know
Mhm.
just adoption campus-wide is something that we're really trying to push. So to be determined in 2025.
Well, I would just say, adoption's key. In
Yes.
order, before you continue to grow, ensure you've adopted what you've used. That gives you better learning than almost anything else can in terms of as you consider other options for expanding. So I would say that's not a bad thing to do, is to ensure that you have that adoption in place before you start looking at expanding. One of the questions, and I think it was answered in the Q&A and the chat portion of the Q&A, but I'll bring it up because someone did ask, Annie, you mentioned potentially looking at expanding for financial aid or maybe even to the registrar's office. And one of the questions was about how do you handle personally identifiable information. And from my experience, generally when you're looking at how that conversation goes and where it lives, um, if you are building out a bot that will ask and collect true personally identifiable information beyond what you might have on an RFI, a request for information form. When you look at that, especially when you think registrar or financial aid, a lot of times those are bots that you access post authentication. So if it's behind a portal or something else where you've logged in, which adds that extra layer of security, so that any information that is passed back and forth is at a higher level of protection there, which would be like filling out a form that's behind your portal wall. And so it would work very, very similarly to that. And so I think that's something to think about for yourself as well. Are there were there challenges to this process that you did not anticipate? Who wants to jump in on that? I won't direct it. I'll let anyone kind of jump in. And if everybody wants to just raise their hand and say it was perfect, feel free to say that too.
I can go first.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of understanding how the knowledge base is the most essential part for all of these bots. At the beginning, we kind of considered as many, like for a query over apply, we would connect to our apply page, but we also considered maybe adding in some other links to an apply blog, give as much information as possible to the apply query, but we realized you need to keep it as specific as possible with your links and your knowledge base, and don't overload, but make sure you realize what answers are relevant for each of the students.
Other thoughts?
I would just go back to the training part of it. I mean, they're just making sure that you have the staff that understands it. We did it over the summertime, so that was a little dicey just because we had vacations in and out and whatever else. But just making sure that your folks understand how it's being used, how, why you're adopting it in the first place. When I presented at conferences about this, that's the first hand that shoots up in the air that always says, "Are you going to replace us from an admissions counselor?" Obviously not, but I just go back to clarifying, because AI is it's an umbrella term, right? At this point.
Yes.
And a lot of the conversations that are happening on a college campus are with the current student populations that are driven by faculty right now. So they're worried about ChatGPT, they're worried about plagiarism, all those type of things. And you kind of have to separate it out. And if you're in a role like mine where you're out there talking about AI, be very specific about how you're using it, the purpose you're using it for, where it's going to be inserted in the recruitment process, but also just making sure that it's a good opportunity at that point for two things. One, to make sure that folks understand that the application numbers are huge, the prospect numbers are even bigger. We're not managing this how we used to manage it 20 years ago with the recruitment cycle. And then two, I had this happen to me in a committee meeting of the board where I had a faculty rep sitting there listening to a conversation that Casey was having with the student and saying, "Well, where's Casey getting the information?" It's back to this website thing. And I said, "Well, let's get it from the website." He's like, I haven't updated my portion of the website in 3 or 4 years. Right. So he's like, "Wow, we have a problem." Right. So it just like, there's ways that you can use it, but just thinking about that, how it's going to be put out there onto your campus so that folks have a good understanding of AI and how you're harnessing it versus just letting it run wild.
I think it's an excellent point, and I was going to ask a question about, and I'm going to hold, don't answer it yet, but about building, winning over the naysayers, because I was facilitating an in-person session around this topic earlier this week, and that was one of the questions we have, and I think it's an important one. But in terms of what you just described, Nathan, yes, the understanding the difference in uses, but when you think about that from the website perspective specifically, I think that's something I would recommend. You think about, where do you scope and scale when you first launch? You are not looking at this to launch your first bot to cover everything. This is version 1.0. It's going to cover a specific set that you tell it to cover, and clearly identify what that is. And if you can identify flags from others that say, I haven't updated my pages in 3 or 4 years, okay, how do we scale back from that to ensure we're not directing the bot to pages that are that outdated? So any hurdles from you or pieces that you think are important to think about when you're jumping into implementation?
Yeah, I don't think we anticipated how much time the process would take, and then also having to build the 3 bot brains. So having a period of time for training and testing before launching is really critical. We asked it a very simple question in the beginning and said, what are your deadlines? And it pulled deadlines for first year transfer and all of our non-degree programs. So it just kept going and going and going with its response. And then we're like, okay, maybe we're too complex for just one brain. So I think that was an important lesson for us to learn. I think, as I mentioned earlier, just leaning more into AI and trusting it and knowing it's not going to be perfect. So there are going to be incorrect answers. That's something we were a little panicked about in the beginning, which is why we tried to intervene a little too much. But Nathan, to your point, humans give incorrect information too. And then also understanding that it's a partner, it's not an end-all be-all solution, right? We are not expecting the bot to be able to answer 100% of the inquiries that are coming in. We are comfortable with 70 to 80%, and then doing that handoff when necessary, right? Like, I don't have confidence in this answer. I don't have the answer. Go speak to my human friends. So I think that's something too that we had to just kind of like reset our expectations around what AI is capable of.
Any real quick, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but in terms of your work with the vendor and implementing, to what extent were you providing that type of information and putting that to the bot, or providing it to the vendor that then kind of set that bot up for you?
Yeah, the vendor did most of the build. What we were deciding are the websites that we wanted the bot to scrape. We were very intentional that we only wanted it to be our admissions websites that we had control over, just because there are so many sites at the university managed by other folks. We didn't want to get into a sticky situation there. And then we were responsible for building those custom and canned responses, but we had very regular meetings with the vendor to understand the different capabilities of the system, best practices, which is how we discovered that we needed to scale back a little bit on our custom responses. So they did the majority of the build and were great partners with us in refining the bot.
Mickey, did you just hear what she said? She said that, Annie, you literally said you only wanted to go to the admissions portion of the website, not to the rest of it, because you didn't have control over it, even though that's publicly facing and been out there for decades.
Yes.
We wanted tighter control for that first phase, tighter control. Maybe we'll build it out a little bit more, but in our pilot.
That's just crazy to me, like how we, again, it comes back to your point about perspective, Mickey, right?
Yep.
About like how you really have to have perspective. Like the website, anybody and their mother, Google, you could literally type in anything, right? And it would pull up an AI generated thing, an AI generated response, which would pull from your other portions of your website, Annie. So that's where I think this is forcing a conversation that I just think is fascinating about. We can control the responses, and I'm not trying to, place blame on you or anything like that. But I think just looking at it from this big picture of what it's doing to the industry and how it's changing how we think and how students are getting information. And regardless whether it's our chatbot that we're implementing on our own, or whether it's Google or Siri or any of these other things, like it's completely exposing all these different areas where we can now leverage that to maybe get things moving faster on our campuses, which has always been a frustration for any admissions office anywhere, regardless of the students that you're serving.
Yep. And I think, you know, what Annie said was a smart move, because you restricted it to help control the answers. But then, Nathan, to your point, which is kind of going beyond just having our own bot, understanding that the bots that other people are creating, as an example, Google, who has AI that's been functioning, you know, in their search piece, you know, from a search perspective. And I am not an SEO or search expert, to be clear, but what we do know in terms of the search process, one of the changes over the last couple of years, and everyone will know this who's been on Google, which is everyone on this call. If you type in a search, yes, you're used to getting those links below, but that right now you get that little synopsis answer, because the shift in Google, they've actually followed social media platforms in a sense that social media has built their platforms so that you never leave their site. They don't want you as a user to have to leave their site to go to another platform, to go to another website. And they actually will penalize impressions that go through in a flow if it's linking outside of their site. Google has adopted that, saying, we don't actually want you to go leave Google. We want you to stay here. And that's why they're providing that short answer. That bot that's providing that answer is also trolling your site to pull information from it to give someone. And what that means is that someone may see information that's 4 years old and never go to your site to know that that's incorrect or can be updated. So it does put more pressure on us to ensure that the information on our website is more routinely reviewed and accurate. And if we don't, we could be hurt without even knowing it. You know, not that you would know it if someone landed on that page and saw that it was outdated. Maybe they would tell you, maybe they wouldn't, but now you won't even know because they'll never even land on the page. And so there is a challenge and an opportunity. And it's impacting this industry at the same rate everyone else. I would say, you know, normally higher ed's a little behind other industries. This, we can continue to be behind, but we'll be penalized for it because the same tools other industries are doing are equally being applied to us, whether we like it or not. So let's get out of the naysayer piece or the Debbie Downer, right? There are challenges to it. Can we talk a little bit about, I want to talk about selection and criteria for selection. Let's assume the three of you actually don't have any tools and don't consider the tool that you have right now. If you were to start over to find a tool today, what would be your top 2 or 3 criteria you'd be looking for? Nathan, go ahead.
Go first. Yeah. I would look at the company and the track record of the company and on their innovation record at the end of the day, because I don't think there is a track record of how AI has been used, and there's certainly not, to my earlier point, like massive years of data that you can analyze and how that's actually funneled right back down to your yield rates, right? The providers we have right now, we are an fairly antiquated industry in some aspects. They can say like, no, if you run these campaigns, then it gets your yield rate and it'll get you this many students or whatever it is. I think the companies that are pushing the envelope right now, that are doing things and are generating innovation quickly, but then also have pretty deep benches of customer support or have good relationships. Because I go back to, this is a relationship industry. And so you want folks that have shown or have somewhat of a track record of working within, I forget whether it was Claire or Annie said that they specifically chose that company because they had experience within higher education and they understand the nuances of us. And some of the things you just said, Mickey, is that we do move at a slower pace sometimes. And we sometimes are slow to adapt. They understand those nuances and some of the challenges we face on getting new technology adopted quickly, especially something like AI that is just changing so rapidly in, I would say, the shortest amount of time within any technology that we've used thus far in admissions.
Yeah. Claire, how about you?
Yes, I think everything Nathan said, to have a team behind you with implementing. I know I saw in the chat about messages with harassment and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that we weren't ready for, but our team was able to give us monitoring on our chatbot. So I think just having a team behind you, because there's so much going on in higher ed. So just to have that alleviated with a great live support team is great.
Annie.
Echo everything that's been said, but I think a vendor team that has that very deep knowledge of technology and AI that I don't have, right? And who are on the cutting edge and not afraid to be innovative with AI is really important as we move forward in this world where it's going to keep growing, it's going to be part of our everyday lives. So I think just knowing that there is a team that has that very deep experience would be important.
Mickey, I get
Mm-hmm.
if you let me, I have one follow-up question for
Yeah.
both Annie and Claire because I'm fascinated because they have such large volumes that they're managing and large institutions. I'm really curious about the role of speaking of technology, of the ITS or the CTO. What type of buy-in did you have to have from your technology department, whether that is an outsourced or an internal technology department, and what type of role did they play within the implementation, if that makes sense?
We weren't the first office to launch a chatbot at NYU, so I think there was already that buy-in. We did a lot of back and forth between the vendor with our IT team, but also our accessibility team. So they were definitely partners in the implementation phase, but they're not involved right now as the bot has launched. But they were already familiar with the process and knew what we needed as a university to meet our technology and accessibility goals.
So we are a public regional college. So our chief technology officer is very hands-on with this. We don't have our student financial services with our chatbot. We're currently trying to put that together, but great buy-in. Our technology coordinator is underneath our admissions umbrella. So amazing buy-in.
I'm not seeing necessarily the significant involvement in the project post-purchase so far with IT, unless it's a tool that's inside of a CRM that's also being implemented, where you might see that. I am seeing, I just heard this week the first, and I'm sure it's not the first, my first time hearing new roles on campus: chief AI officer on campus. And so now that particular officer position reports out under the academic affairs umbrella. So, seeing how these positions emerge and where they live and what the responsibilities are will be there. I think the use of these tools will also help expand a small number. There are not many of them around college universities here, but the role of a chief experience officer. What does that play? Because we are modifying the overall experience of our users. And as some institutions, not all, but some grow more dramatically with their online student populations that might outpace their on-the-ground populations, thinking about that experience and the role technology plays in delivering it is an important one, and that might lean a little bit more towards a technology-based type of experience officer, where others might be more customer service or student service, student affairs type of a background with experience officers. So I see some of those potential changes. It should, at minimum, as you grow and you find others with an interest in this tool, help you rethink governance. We have data governance groups on campus. We have CRM governance groups on campus. Those types of our technology governance groups, where does this fall between those three? Because many institutions have more than one of those in there. And so where does this fall? Who's responsible for that? There will be some secondary implications that will need to be addressed. And some of them will address this first before they get too deep into it or in it at all. But others, you start to grow and expand, and then other departments start using it. And then the question typically will come up to say, well, how are we governing this? I do see some of those things happening. And so I'm cognizant of time. Folks, if you're with us here and you want to have us try to answer or ask and answer a question of the panelists, drop that into the chat and I'll ask that. While you're doing that, did you have any naysayers when you're going through the process? How did you address those concerns from folks. I gave you the warning this was coming, so everyone should hopefully have their answer ready to go. Who wants to start?
I can give a
Go
very
ahead.
quick and simple answer in that we really didn't have any naysayers throughout the process. Again, we were very lucky that we had a lot of support from leadership within enrollment management to implement AI, and we weren't the first part of the university to do it. Now, because we're at a large university, that means we have several different vendors that we're working with. There's not that kind of like unified relationship with a vendor. So that does require, kind of that exploratory period of if this is going to be the right fit for us. But we really didn't have any naysayers in the process. There was a lot of great buy-in.
Nathan.
I really just the way I was able to talk about it was that we just needed to not waste any more time, if that made sense. And specifically when I was asked, well, how are you going to use it and which students is it going to contact? And I said, I don't really care about that right now. I care about making sure that it understands Knox and it continues to learn. And I said, the longer we wait, the longer ramp up time it will take, and our competitors will have had that time already. So I want it to be ready to go. I didn't think that, you, Mickey, would be interacting with Casey as a demo on the website or whatever else. Like, that's not really how I thought it would go down. But it really was just trying to understand Knox and continue to make it better. And then once we felt like it was to that point and we're continuing to have it learn, then we could figure out different use cases. So that's how I was able to address it.
Yeah, I think just speaking in their language and showing them stats and data on the conversations and what it's been able to resolve has been our number one thing. Again, we try to remind them that this is this is version 1 that we're putting out. It's only going to get better. But since this summer, with our teams rolled out, we've had 11,000 conversations. So, I mean, that's saving so much extra time with our admissions counselors for those very small questions. So that's going to be the answer that they need, and hopefully just keep on trucking along.
And some of those are conversations that save time of staff. Some are conversations that no one would have had on your campus at all without that. So as we start to wrap up, closing thoughts from panelists. What if you were to give one piece of advice to anyone that's getting ready to start the process, what would you tell them?
Jump in.
Claire, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
just give it a try. This is the time now, the conversation's starting. Just give it a try and make sure you have a good sales pitch for everyone else on campus for it.
Annie.
Yeah, I would say before you start looking at vendors, just make sure you have a very clear list of what your needs and goals are, because there are so many vendors out there who are offering great services, but you have to find the one that's the right fit. So having those conversations in advance can really inform that process of choosing the right vendor, and then also understanding what those metrics of success are that you can provide to leadership at the end of the day, so you can make a really compelling argument.
Just take the risk, I would say. Some of this is you're just going to have to go blindly into it a little bit. We are very, very traditional industry, and we like to make sure that everything is going the way that we want it to go. But some of this, you just have to inherently take the risk and be okay with it. But to Annie's point and to Claire's point, be ready with your talking points and be ready with your data to kind of show how it's evolving.
Yep. And I would very much agree. Anytime you're making a selection, knowing the requirements ahead of time, and in today's world where you're correct, Annie, a lot of vendors out there. You're going to see lots of bells and whistles that are all polished, pretty shiny, and knowing what you're really looking for will help you determine, do you need just bells? Do you want 2 bells? Do you want 2 bells and 3 whistles? You want to know what it is you're looking for, and then to tying that into the outcomes, because when someone says, yes, you can do this, you want to be able to show them those outcomes. And if you don't know what that, not necessarily the number of the outcomes, but what metrics it is that you need to be able to demonstrate, and you don't think about that when you go into selection, you may not be able to show that demonstration of the output of that. So keep that in mind. Well, Jasmine, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you all to our panelists for this great conversation. Very different perspectives and experiences, and I'm really happy we're able to connect and share that. So, Jasmine,
Yeah,
floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I'm putting in the chat right now a link to our AN College Admissions website. We do have 2 more events in December, one each in the next 2 weeks that are on prompt engineering. So if you want to up your game there and learn how to interact with AI yourself, please check those out. This was recorded and you will be emailed that. And as I mentioned, when we end the webinar, you will be sent to our survey. It's very short and we would greatly appreciate if you can fill it out for us. And thank you to all of our panelists for being here with us today.
Good afternoon.
Thanks. Bye.